Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to start this meeting. It is 6:06, and the Citizen Engagement Committee meeting will come to order. Myself, Councilor Sika, along with Councilor Crow. We also have Councilor Winslow in the audience. We are going to turn this over to Teddy to do a presentation. Tonight's meeting, we will not be taking any votes. We're just here for information, and we're going to bring it back to the Rules and Ordinance Committee once we're done here. Once the presentation is over, we're going to open it up for public comment. Anybody that wants to speak in favor or against this issue, they can do so at that time. Okay, Teddy?
Thank you, Councilor. Good evening, everyone. Again, I just wanted to welcome you guys. My name is Ted Luchak, and I currently serve as the president of Malden Rising Leaders. Quickly, I wanted to introduce the board of directors that are here right now. We have Vice President Christy Magris, Carl Dennis, who's the treasurer, Aminda LaFosse, who serves as secretary, and we have Kendra Cho, who's another board member. Also, I wanted to acknowledge Principal Massangelo that's in the building. My history teacher. He was my history teacher for real. Mr. Lightbody. Also, who else? We have Tara Beasley from the school committee that's with us. So with that said, I don't want to take any more time. I just want to, again, thank you guys for being here. And again, just listen to their presentation, hear them out. This is the research that they did over the summer as part of the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program that Karen Hayes oversaw. They work hard at this. Yeah, so anyway, so without any further ado, I'd just like to introduce the Malden Rising Leaders Summer Fellows.
Hello, as Ted said, we are part of the Malden Rising Leaders Summer Fellowship Program. I'm Sean Lightbody, a junior at Malden High School.
My name's Jimmy Lee, and I'm a junior at Malden High.
My name is Vanessa Nguyen, I'm a senior at Malden High School.
My name's Maya, I'm a senior at Mystic Valley.
My name is Maya, and I'm a graduate of Malden High. Malden is known for its progressiveness and its spirit of change, and because of this, we believe the youth's voices should be heard. Malden has always been a Kickstarter for change, as has Massachusetts. Malden was the first town to send instructions to the authors of the Constitution. Malden was also not only the first town to support the creation of the Constitution, but one of the very first cities to allow slaves to live within it post-war. Massachusetts was the first state to legalize same-sex marriage. Boston was the first subway system built in the USA. And the American Industrial Revolution began in Lowell, as Lowell was the first planned industrial city. Malden's progressiveness continues to show as we come into the modern age, and is one of the most diverse cities in the state, and one of the most diverse school systems in the state as well. Malden's ability to incorporate people of many different backgrounds to help shape the city it is shows we are not afraid of change. Quite the opposite, in fact. Malden has always embraced the changes when they are needed and has never shied away from making changes that will help empower its people. The world is changing, and we should be able to embrace this fact. Just with recent elections alone, we've seen the first Latina congresswoman in Texas, the first Muslim woman to ever be elected to Congress in both Michigan and Minnesota, and the first Black congresswoman from Massachusetts. Kansas elected the first ever Native woman in Congress, who also happens to be an LGBT woman. New York elected the youngest ever woman in Congress at just 29 years old. America is evolving, and the youth are the ones leading it there. These young people should at least be able to have a say in local elections where policies directly affect them, their lives, and their education. With the same spirit of change and leadership, we want Malden to be the first city to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in municipal local elections.
I'll be reading in place of Junior, who could not make it today. So this is what he wrote. Reasons why we should let 16 and 17-year-olds vote is because we have the stake in the game, meaning that politicians should pay attention to us. While we are being full-time students, we are also going to work paying taxes, and most of the time providing aid to our family. This past year, I had to work to help my family while being a full-time student, and not to mention I was playing 3 sports, which shows that we have adult-based relationships. Data also shows that 58% of us are involved in volunteer activities such as Bread of Life, Unified Sports, and local churches. We all have been living in Malden for years and have a deep connection to the community, so why shouldn't we vote? Lastly, I can say that we are affected by local political issues such as school committee decisions, education funding, employment initiatives, and police programs. Therefore, I strongly believe that we should lower the voting age to 16 years old. And now I will introduce Sean to discuss the benefits of lowering the voting age.
This would benefit everyone because it would create a greater general interest. With 16 and 17-year-olds being able to vote, it'll bring out a higher voting turnout. It'd also promote political participation. It would do this by increasing the amount of people who are able to vote, and then a study had shown that when 16, 17-year-olds are able to vote, they ended up bringing their parents along with them, which continues to the chain of habitual voting, which would widen the participation. Over the years to come, voting would become a habit for upcoming teens from 16 and 17-year-olds, which would bring out their parents, and then they'll continue the habit as time goes on, eventually leading in, once they're 18, to the presidential cycle. I'll now introduce Jimmy with the statistics behind this.
How can we increase the voter turnout rate? Well, as you can see on the first graph, it shows 2 local elections from Tacoma Park, Maryland. As you can see on the first graph, the 16 and 17-year-old voters more than quadrupled the general voters, or the 18 and up voters. And on the second graph, we could see that this kind of remains the same, except the general voters increased. This happened because the general voters saw that the 16 and 17-year-old voters were being more politically engaged, which encourages them for them to go out and vote. And on the second graph, you can see countries that have already lowered the voting age to 16. Next. Now, some of you might have concerns, like why should we let 16-year-olds vote? They're so immature, or at 16, a person's brain isn't even fully developed. Well, I'm here to answer those concerns because as you can see on the first graph, it shows 2 different colored dots. The red dot represents the flanker test. The blue dot represents the dimensional card change sort, or the DCCS. Both of these dots are used to measure a person's executive function. An executive function is a person's mental skill that you use every day, such as paying attention, regulating your emotions, or starting and ending tasks. And as you can see, according to the study done by Vox and Zalazlo, at 16, a person's executive function is almost the same as a person when they're 20 years old. And to support what Sean said earlier about habits, voting habits, if we lower the voting age to 16, we can instill voting habits to 16-year-olds, in which they will continue these habits throughout their life, which means that at all age, the voter turnout rate will increase for all ages. I will now introduce Vanessa, who will talk about cities that already lowered the voting age to 16.
So after we have researched, this is the cities that have already lowered the voting age to 16. So you can see it's 4 cities in Maryland and 1 city in California for school board elections. Next. This slide is showing the city are currently now working on this project. Like you can see on the top is 3 cities in Massachusetts. Now I introduce Sean to explain some parts as well in Massachusetts.
As you can see up on the slide, some past efforts would include Cambridge, Lowell, Ashfield, Shelburne, and Wendell. Lowell is up there twice because it has passed once in 2011 and then another time in 2013 on the city scale with a unanimous vote. I'll now introduce Maya.
Oftentimes, these are the common misconceptions that people have when they hear about lowering the voting age to 16 and 17 years old. Some of these points will definitely be repeated, but it's good that you guys know the information now, and then even if you still have further questions, you can ask later. So, the first one is that teens are too young and cannot handle the responsibility. As Junior's letter that Maya wonderfully read stated, youths are working. They actually make up, as the 2017 Bureau of Labor Statistics reported, up to 16% of the labor force. And the Fair Labor Standards Act state that teens can hold jobs at 14, and when they get that income, they pay taxes based off of it. These are very adult-based responsibilities, and for kids to be able to do things like this, they should have a say in how these laws are affected by them. For the voter turnout, as Jimmy stated earlier, when Tacoma Park's November 5th election showed that the eligible voters in the 16 and 17 age group actually quadrupled the 18-year-old and up age group. So really, the teens who want to vote are going to come out and vote. These laws impact them in a way that it impacts everybody else too. And as Sean stated before, parents vote more frequently when they're setting an example for their kids. Parents want to be able to show their kids good habits, and as these kids grow up and they learn to vote at 16 and 17, their parents will be more willing to take them there to show them these good responsibilities. So it actually kind of balances out the voter turnout, because as parents go to vote, their voter increases more too. And then a very big one is decision making. So as Jimmy stated beforehand, there are differences in cognition with kids too. So while teenagers might have something called hot cognition, which is impulsive decisions, emotional regulation, and making decisions under pressure, they may not have all those exact things nailed down in their life yet, but really, who does? But by 15 and 16, they have developed something called cold cognition, which is gathering and processing information, being able to weigh pros and cons, and reason logically with facts, and take time before making a decision, which are all great skills that you need to be able to cast a vote and cast a ballot.
Next would be our next steps and recommendations, which would include Councilor Winslow sponsoring our paper.
If the home petition gets passed by the city council, it will go directly to the state legislature where it will be reviewed.
Hopefully, we can form a Malden Mayor's Youth Commission or a Malden Youth Council to be able to talk to students and influence these ideas.
Start discussion amongst peers at Malden High School.
So the last step is we're going to prepare for the potential hearing at the Steakhouse.
They said, all right. So real quickly, I just wanted to give, before I do that, I just noticed Superintendent Oteri, thank you for making it tonight. So a real special thanks to the sponsors and to the partners that were able to make this happen over the summer. Again, it started with the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program, because that's where we were able to talk to with Karen Hayes and her team in order to get these fellows and get them paid for them to do the research. Malden Taxi is a big sponsor of us. They give us a donation for the scholarship that we offer. Also, we have the David DiMaria Foundation with thank you, Councilor DiMaria, for her team and her generous donation. So Capital One, over the summer, the students were able to travel to Assembly Square, where they had their cafe, and there they met with the team and they talked about financial literacy. So throughout that portion of the summer program, they traveled there, and the team over there welcomed us. They talked to us about the leaders' information and that they were searching throughout their project. American Student Assistant from Boston and Amazon, we're working with Amazon on establishing something, a partnership that they want to, once the students turn 18 and they're able to work at Amazon, then they can begin working there in one of their shops. And if the students later on want to attend college or some type of additional degree, then they'll be able to join their management team as long as they stay with the company after they graduate or after they receive their certificate. Again, thank you to the Malden Rising Board of Directors, the Malden Public Library, where they did most of their research, the City Clerk's Office. Carolyn Desiderio actually registered these students to vote over the summer. So thank you again, Carolyn, for all your help. The legal department, Kay Fallon, she helped us out a lot with legal, with the language around putting this together and making sure that it was obviously all good and not missing any parts or anything that would be a struggle piece legally. Malden Public Library, Taylor for Success, and of course the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. So I'd like to again say a big thank you to all these partners and sponsors in order to making this happen. And now we'll take your questions and feedbacks and all that stuff. Who's going to be the first one? We have a question right
Mine is pretty long though, so if somebody has just a quick question, okay. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, nice. So I am 17 years old, and I am not able to vote. My friends are heavily interested in politics. As you can see, we're from the Malden Youth Civics Council. We talked about the midterm elections all for the past several months. We watched the results come in until 3 a.m. We discussed it the next day. We discussed it in all our classes. So we're very involved in politics. But there were so many of us who didn't turn 18 until even just a couple of days later it was so frustrating, or even next year, that we never got a chance. And although this is just for local elections, it's actually even bigger because local elections actually impact us even more. And so our council this year registered 60, more than 60 students this year. So it was good, yeah. And many of them were pre-registered, so they couldn't vote for the midterm election, and they might not even be able to get a chance to vote next year, where the local elections, many of the offices will be open. So this is really frustrating. And everything that happens, whether directly or indirectly, affects all of us at age 16 and 17. But the thing is that we are unable to vote at that time, and by the time we're at the age where we're able to vote, where we're 18 or 19, then we've already moved out to college in other cities, in other states, and other countries. So we don't get that chance to establish that voting habit in our hometown or where we've spent since middle school or high school. We don't get to establish that. And so that's why I think this is such a really important thing. And there are many youth in Malden that are so engaged within their community, their schools, and politics. Just to name a few, we have the speech and debate team, we have a mock trial team, Teenage Republicans, High School Democrats, Social Activism Club, Malden Youth Civics Council. We have so many more in our high school that, that's my dad. Okay. So we have all these clubs and youth organizations that have stemmed up here or that have been here for more than 10 years. So we're really engaged, but we never get a chance to affect our community. And all these things that get passed at the school committee or that get passed out at the council meetings, those really directly affect us, but we just don't get a chance to ever make a difference, and then we move out. And another thing that's really important is if we start getting people to vote at 16 or 17, not only will we vote and it will spread in youth in Malden, but it will also get our parents to vote and the whole community more engaged. I think we're really taking away from what Malden could become and what Malden already is. We've led in so many things that have led in other states that follow years later, and I think we could really make a difference by being the first in Massachusetts to really make this something big. So I really agree with you guys, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Brooke T. Question. We have one right here. All right. I saw this one go first.
I don't actually have a question. Can I comment, please, directly? Hi, I'm Carol Ann. I'm the Assistant Registrar for the City of Malden. In response to what you just said, I just want to be clear for kids who are in high school today or in college, something that you mentioned is that by the time you graduate, you're moving out of the state or out of the country, and then you're not able to really create that voting history. I want you to know that that's not true. You can work with my office. We do absentee ballots. We do overseas absentee ballots. In the case of people joining the military or studying abroad, we still allow you to vote, even if it's overseas. We never want you not to vote. And actually, we don't allow this if you're in the country, but if you're out of the country, you can vote via email, which makes it so much easier and much more convenient no matter where you are around the world. I can email you the official, it's called a UCAVA ballot. I email you the official ballot, you can scan it, vote on it, and you can email it back to me. So I just want to let you know that voting in the city of Malden will never be an issue for you, and we encourage that no matter where you study or if you join the military, no matter where you are in the world, we'll always work with you to make sure that your vote gets counted.
I didn't know about that, so thank you so much for that. The only thing is that by the time we move out, it sort of stops affecting us. Like when they pass the school budget, like for me, it will still affect me because both my brothers go here. But for many students, it stops affecting them directly, and I think that's why I wanted to have a chance to vote in here while it affects us. But thank you so much. Yes. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to thank you guys for the research and just for presenting that. I guess what I always come back to is I think about myself at 16 and then at 18, and I don't remember a huge difference between my sort of my maturity, I would say. And I'd have to say that a lot of the students at Malden High, Mystic Valley, Malden Catholic that I've talked to, 16-year-olds are sometimes much more involved and engaged than some adults that I know, and they know more about the local issues that are going on. I'm not trying to offend adults, but, and I personally I'm in support of this, and I'm really proud of what you guys have done.
Thank you. Just a comment first and a question. My first comment is I applaud this effort. I'm 100% behind it. I think any time we can increase democracy in our city, I think it's a great thing. The points I think that you have made, particularly around the impact of you in your ward and in your schools, is very profound, and I think that that needs to be amplified, and having younger voices with a representation, I think, will lead to a better form of government here in Malden, so I'm completely for this. My question is, and maybe you covered it earlier and I didn't catch it, was would this be if you register at 16, and I don't know if the clerk's office would have this, for the local election, if we get the home rule petition, would that count for your registration? You'd have to re-register for national elections as well? Or would it be a one-time registration at 16? Well, if we pass the home rule petition here in Malden, residents at 16 can vote in local elections. Okay. Correct. That's right. So okay, so I guess my charge for you folks is make sure that that momentum doesn't get lost. We want to capture them, you guys at 16, and continue in the election process going on. So that's why I knew that there must have been some subtlety or snag within the state law on voter registration. So we want you to vote early, but we want you to continue to vote afterwards, especially in the state and national elections.
Most of the places and the cities that have this do, Most of the places and the cities that have this, where it differs from state law, do something as a separate registration when you're 16 that covers 16 and 17-year-olds. And then once you turn 18, you can register for the state elections and the like bigger elections and such.
Terrific. Good. Great work. Thank you.
I had one last thing to say about that. We did come across it while we were doing our research, and when we had called in with the other places that we mentioned before, like Tacoma Park or whatnot, and they said that the way that they run their votes are different from the way that we run them here, so that they had a completely different system and it was up to them how they did it. And we knew coming into this, we wouldn't be able to go straight from the town to like the state to the entire country. So this is why we're starting at local level rather than the state level.
Hi. First of all, I want to say great job. You guys did a fantastic job with the research and the presentation, so well done. I'm fully in support of this initiative. Having worked with youth in the summer youth programs, I see every day how involved you are, invested, and how much you care. So I just wanted to say that. Also, I want to touch on the point about the brain development. So thank you for pointing that out. It's been a big question on people's minds, which I totally understand. Brain development does continue until 24, but it is in the prefrontal cortex, which is all about the decision making, which you hit on. So I think that's fantastic, because I think it's dangerous personally when you start bringing that up, because then it would, I'm thinking it might bring up things like dementia or mental health, or things that also affect brain development process. So that's a really tricky thing to think about. So I just well done on that. And I do have a question. I'm wondering if the shootings and the school violence had anything to do with the fact that you want to be heard locally at 16 and 17, having a say in gun control or anything, safety in schools.
There was a time during last year's winter, like around this time last year, when there were some school shootings where there were rallies held outside the school, which a lot of students went to and ended up having like a large talk and just a big rally about the issue. So there were like active students in the high school itself, not a part of this group here today.
So after the Parkland shooting, it was actually, so I'm the first chair of the Malden Youth Civics Council. I just want to introduce myself as that. And so the Civics Council was actually founded over the summer. So after Parkland, I, along with the vice chair of the club, led a school-wide walkout in support and just to think of the victims and to bring attention to the tragedies that have occurred and that continue to occur. We have had so many school shootings or just mass shootings in general in this past year alone, so that's what we did. And then we spoke to our state senator, Jason Lewis's office, to maybe work together with him to create a council that we can voice our issues through, because we felt like we weren't really being heard through our local levels, which I think this would really help. And so we created the Civics Council over the summer, me and another student, and then we got many students to be a part of it. And so that's how we pre-registered and registered those students. And we also had a voter workshop before the November election to get the students engaged, and there was a big turnout. I think it was like 30 to 40 students that came. We invited the people that would have been on the ballot. 7 of the state candidates came. They spoke to the students. It was just a really great night, and we plan to continue doing that throughout the whole year. And so that's why I'm really interested in that, because I feel like we could really make just progress in our town and in our community if we get this passed. So yeah, just speak on it.
So I'm 19, so I can vote in all elections. And even before I could vote, however, I was very concerned about the safety in schools due to all these shootings. It's not something that as kids we should have to be worried about, and yet it's constantly on our minds when we're in the school. So being able to vote for representatives who I believe will keep us safe and keep our best interest in mind is something I hold very close to my heart and I'm very thankful for. However, most of the people in the high schools are 16 and 17, and they make up about half the school, and they don't have that say. They're not able to vote for who they believe will keep them safe. And for me personally, that is a huge push for this, so they can vote for those people. Personally now, even though I can vote legally with 19 years old, I'm voting for my sisters who are in those schools. I'm voting for people who I know will give them their best education, the best experiences there, and who will be able to keep them safe and believe and push for the laws that will keep them safe.
One last piece on this too is State Representative Altrino and Senator Lewis were unable to make it tonight, but they were here present for the August presentation, and they both are in support and favor of this, should it pass the City Council. So, questions?
Yeah, that one you can't really hear too well.
Yeah, if you don't know me, I'm Councilor at Large Steve Winslow, and I did sponsor this paper before the council, and I really appreciate the Youth for Malden Rising leaders bringing this to the city's attention, and thank the Citizens Engagement Committee tonight and everybody who's come out tonight to talk about this. I sponsored this paper because I believe that elected representatives from older generations really have an obligation to seek and support and encourage younger generations to get engaged in our democracy. As we all know, patriots from Malden fought and died in the Revolution to ensure that people could elect their government representatives. At that time, it was really only white men who owned property who could vote. Over the years, our Constitution has been constantly amended to expand that. At the end of the Civil War, people who had been enslaved or who were born from foreign parents weren't guaranteed the right of citizenship and voting. Suffragettes, I'm always inspired by suffragettes, worked 50 years. Some did not live in their lifetime to see, like Susan B. Anthony, to see the right to vote, but they worked hard all their life to that. So that's inspiring. Civil rights leaders in the 50s and 60s who put their lives on the lines to eliminate barriers to voting. And now even today, we know all of elections today to make sure that every vote is counted. So this is important work, and I really appreciate the students taking this on. And I've been so impressed with the research they did. They didn't come up and just present an idea. They came and addressed arguments and also found data to show why this benefits our communities, and very encouraging to see that not only do 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds who have that right vote at very high rates, they also encourage their parents to vote. So, and I also, as Tara Beardsley mentioned, I have worked with youth in Malden and other communities, and I'm always impressed by how much they know the community. The fact is that our teens here, you're in the community at school with your friends during the evenings and weekends and families. You're here probably more than the adults in your lives. And so Malden is your world. And I think to me, it's sort of ironic that just at the time you become 18, you're really leaving that world and you don't have a chance to input. And so I think, it's important. And I think it's also the type of thing to, it's helpful. Voting is relatively straightforward, but it's good to be able to do it when you're in a home and in a setting around people. I remember going away to college and trying to get that absentee voter thing and voting on a little piece of cardboard and stuff like that. It happened the first time, but it didn't happen later. And I think it's the type of thing to be in a community and vote in that setting is much easier, and it's a good way to get people to start. And so that's really important. And I do have one question for the youth. As 16 and 17-year-olds, this may take some time. The next steps are, the council has to vote to see and make that decision. to whether we're going to vote to ask the legislature to take a step. The legislature has to take a step, and then this will all come back to the people of Malden to vote. So what about your all commitment, and can you explain what you're doing to make sure that what you started, there's people to help finish it? Because just as the suffragettes found that an idea can take a long time and a lot of work to make happen. So what about the steps from here? Thank you very much. Great.
Okay, I think Sean.
Well, the last time when we were talking in the August presentation, we did mention that Generation Citizen is a thing at our high schools where an idea is presented and then that group of students in their history or social studies classes can take it on. I did Generation Citizen in my freshman year where we did like student stress in schools, where we went up to the government buildings in Boston and presented our ideas in front of everyone. So I think it would, if there was a way to keep it going, you could keep it going with the incoming freshmen or maybe sophomores and keep it going up through that way.
Hi. So as an adult who can vote, I wanted to take this on this way the students can have an idea and be able to express their beliefs through the voting system. I think what Sean said about the GC is a great idea. And as this idea gains more traction and gains more publicity in Malden, and we can bring it to the schools and kind of keep talking about it, as we as a group will continue to kind of bring the idea to light in a way and make sure that people know, like, hey, have you heard about this? It's going on in Malden. We're trying to get this issue passed. Have you heard about the Vote 16 initiative? And just as long as we keep up the discussion, it should gain traction and people will become more aware of it and be able to have an interest in it. Whereon we can take them into our group, we can show them the ropes, teach them about things about it, the statistics, the data, how it works, and why it's beneficial to our community. That way they can start doing the same exact thing, getting their peers in on it, letting them know how it's going, just so it kind of snowballs from there.
On behalf of the Citizen Engagement Committee, I want to thank Teddy and the Malden Rising leaders coming into this meeting. I was a little hesitant about possibly allowing 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in municipal elections. I now have some homework and some good points and discussion to go over with some of my colleagues at in Rules and Ordinance as we take this back to possibly send it to the state for our home rule petition. I think they stated their case quite nicely. I am very impressed at how this group thought of everything that they could think of, and you answered a lot of my questions. I know that Teddy did open it up for questions. This is a public meeting, so I technically have to ask if anybody else in the room would like to speak in favor of this topic. Hearing none, seeing none. Any? No? We're gonna close that portion of the meeting. Anybody here in favor of opposition of this topic that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, we're gonna close that part of the meeting. And again, I just wanna thank Teddy, Malden Rising Leaders. You did an amazing job. I'm sorry I missed it over the summer. I don't spend much time in Malden during the summer months. I go to New Hampshire, so I appreciate you coming back out. Like I said, I was one that was uncertain, and you've answered a lot of my questions, and I appreciate it. And we thank you for coming. Have a nice night. I just need a motion to adjourn. Councilor Crowe, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? You said nay? The meeting is closed.